in a scientific way, together with his viticulture professor of then back in Montpellier. They identified the grape varieties of Cyprus. There are 14. Cyprus, geographically, as people might know, it is a crossroad of three continents, and it's also, importantly enough, it's the way to Jerusalem, the Holy Land. So, why I mention this is because there's always a wine trade on the island.
I'm Farah Shammas. Welcome to Hotel Talk. We hope you enjoy listening to this friendly conversation between people connected by real life in hotels. Welcome back, everyone, to Hotel Talk. And today I have with us someone who's very close to hotels because he provides us and all of you guys with delicious Cyprus wines. Marcos Zambartas is with us. He's the MD, and obviously the name gives it away, family connection behind Zambartas Winery, which is in Cyprus. It's a very well-known winery here, if you guys don't know it, if you're not familiar with Cyprus. And it is in the region of Ios Ambrosios, which, for anyone who knows a little bit about Greek mythology, knows that ambrosia is indeed the food of the gods. So I love that it's even in that area. Marco, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you. It's an honor.
So let's start with a little bit about you and your family's history with the winery, how the winery came about, who started it, and then how and why you got involved and wanted to continue that family legacy.
The winery, Zambartas Winery, came about in 2006. The art and science of winemaking in the family runs a few decades more. With my father. He was the MD, but before he was the chief winemaker of Kio.
Okay.
And after a long career, he decided that it's time to build the family winery. So it all started for me in 2006, just being a pair of cellar hands, just helping out. And then I left to Adelaide in Australia to study winemaking.
Why Australia?
I asked around. I asked Master of Wines. I asked other winery owners, other winemakers, and they pointed down under. So no
That's
family.
So interesting.
Yes.
So they not France, or Italy, like the obvious, let's say, traditional wine places.
There is valid reasons behind it.
Yeah.
South Australia and Cyprus, they are on the same parallel.
Okay.
Different hemispheres, obviously. But that means that climatic-wise, with South Australia, Cyprus is quite similar in climate. So viticulture is very similar. Just to give you an example, summer in Cyprus is very dry and hot, which is in the area of Adelaide, it's the same. And that has consequences in the style of wines someone can produce.
Okay.
So the knowledge I got in Australia was very quickly used, very quickly adapted to the Cypriot climate. So it was very easy for me. And also, it is a reality that the University of Adelaide is a very well-known place to study winemaking. The Australians have really nailed it in many different ways.
Oh, well, I love Australian wine. So, yeah, I think they have all of this new world wines that everyone's talking about. But I don't think now anybody considers them, new or on the border. I think they're world-class recognized.
I mean, it's 200-year-old winemaking history now in Australia. And the other important aspect is that they're not bound by tradition. Tradition can be very good in many ways, and it gives an identity, it gives a style of wine, but at the same time, it can be a bit limiting to what grapes you can grow and how to make the wine. And Cyprus, yes, we did produce wine for 6,000 years in this country, but the reality is that there is no tradition per se.
Mm.
So getting the knowledge how to design a wine right from the scratch, for me as a person especially, that creativity is an important aspect for me. It actually is very rewarding.
I can imagine. So let's talk a little bit about Cyprus wines for people who don't know, and even people who are Cypriot or are familiar with Cyprus wines. Many people don't understand the history behind the vines, the grapes, what is local, what isn't. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
So Cyprus is blessed as a place to have its own indigenous grape varieties. It was probably a legacy of my father when he was back in Kio, around my age and a bit younger, so in his mid-30s. That would be late 80s, where in a scientific way, together with his viticulture professor of then back in Montpellier, they identified the grape varieties of Cyprus. There are 14.
Oh, there's so many as 14.
Yes, the ones that people might know is Xinisteri,
of course,
Maratheftico, Yanoudi, Mavro, and there are some less known ones, more obscure ones like Catomilitico and Canella, not Moro Canella. That's another grape variety. Marujo. So there are still grape varieties that they are not commercially available wines from, and that gives even more prospect of the wine industry. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, as a wine region, obviously we are we make wines that they can be characterized as a hot climate winemaking. So intense red wines, rosé wines that they are not that pale salmon
They're
color.
very vibrant. Yes, I know a lot of guests when we open up the rosé for them, they're like, oh, like not in a bad way, but they're just so surprised because it's a very vibrant pink, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It can even be a light ruby red color. Yes. And also expressive whites, not necessarily bursting from acidity, but tropical fruits, quite intense aromas of citrus, which is Cyprus is well known for its citrus production as well. So, and of course, there is the Kumandaria, the sweet wine of Cyprus.
Oldest wine in the world, isn't it? Still in production.
Yes.
Still in production.
Yes, it is nothing scientific, but that's the legend of Kumandaria. Yes.
That's what that's the saying, wink, wink.
Yes.
And we'll stick to it.
Yes. And
and Kumandaria gets its name from
Kumandaria it comes from the Grand Commandery, which was back in the Knights Templar, which was the headquarters. The Grand Commandery was the headquarters. So before the name Kumandaria, it was called Nama.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But Commandaria stayed as the name, and it's also now a protected denomination of origin. So there is a strict protocol, let's call it, of production for it. It's the same category as Champagne, as Parmigiano Reggiano. All these are PDO. They are protected denominations of origin.
Yeah, it's very unique, isn't it? But it's delicious. I mean, it's a very sweet, heavy wine, but it's a very nice nightcap.
Yes, it's what we call it. Allow me to use the term a meditation wine. It's a wine that you drink it and you think about it, or it's not a wine to meet a friend and start chatting by consuming that wine. No. It's a wine that you want it at the end of the evening, or maybe laying on the couch. Is this kind of wine?
That's so interesting. And tell us about the imported grapes, because I think a lot of visitors to the island might get confused. They see, Sauvignon Blanc, and then but it's a Cypriot wine, and they're like, well, how does that work?
Okay.
And
now, in the 80s, there was a global, let's say, affection towards the international grape varieties. There were vineyards, very old vineyards across Europe, that they were grabbed and they were planted with the international grape varieties like Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz. and also the New World countries, if we can use that term any day.
Still, yeah.
They planted mainly these grape varieties, the noble ones, as if every other variety is not, Anyway, this is some French old school marketing, yeah. And this is where, actually going back to my father, that's where his vision was there. He was a visionary because he said, this is not correct. We need to find our grape varieties and invest on those. Now, obviously, there are these grape varieties still on the island, like Sauvignon Blanc that you have mentioned. There are still good wines made from those grape varieties. They will never be exceptionally good. They will never be of the same quality than an expensive wine from those grape varieties in their habitat, the original habitat. So there is a need for these wines, even made in Cyprus, because people demand. I mean, not everyone feels adventurous to order Exinisteri to drink. They prefer to drink a Sauvignon Blanc, which is fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I've just written down the word here, experience. I mean, your dad was right because, yes, many people might say, okay, well, I know the Sauvignon Blanc. I know that I'm fine with that. People are worried about headaches or hangovers, and they say, okay, I'm going to have that. But on the other hand, many people say, well, I have that all the time. What is Xinisteri? I want the experience. Correct. I'm in Cyprus. I want that. And we're seeing that more and more in the hotel where people, they go to the spa. They don't just want any massage. What is your signature massage? They go to the restaurants, or what do you serve here that's different? I can have a salmon and vegetables and mashed potato anywhere. What do you do that's different? So I think the same applies to wine. So we've spoken a little bit about the history then, but tell us a bit more about the myths and legends, because I think everybody likes a good story. So tell us more about Cyprus wines and their role in history.
Well, Cyprus geographically, as people might know, it is a crossroad of three continents, and it's also, importantly enough, it's the way to Jerusalem, the Holy Land. So, why I mention this is because there's always a wine trade on the island. There was always a pilgrimages.
Yeah, I was going to say the Crusaders.
The Crusaders, pilgrims, that they would stop on the island. There was a lot of exports as well back then. And so Cypriot wine has been around for many years.
Yeah, and the Phoenicians trading.
Yes, and of course the boom came with when Cyprus used to be a colony, British colony. That's when a lot of the wine was exported. And we're talking about millions of liters in countries that we wished we could export wine nowadays. And
so it stopped after we weren't a colony anymore, you mean?
At some point, other countries picked up.
Yeah.
Really. And for those that they visit rural Cyprus, they will understand that viticulture is on hills.
So tell us more about that, about viticulture. Tell us more.
In Cyprus, we grow our grapes on hills. They are on slopes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the slopes nowadays are terrace, but the way the island is, there is not the chance to mechanize, or it's very difficult to mechanize. So the cost of production is quite high compared to other countries. And this is where, in time, Cyprus lost the mass-produced wine and the sales. Because other countries with viticulture, where it's on flat plains, it's much easier to get the tractors in. Everything is just more automated and mechanized. So viticulture nowadays is much less than it used to be, maybe 50 years ago. Today, the land under vines is probably 10% of what it used to be. And but quality has risen significantly.
That was another question I have for you. So, I mean, I remember when I was very young in the 80s and 90s, all the tourists coming over to our hotel and saying, oh, we have the best wine and it's just so nice under the stars and on the balcony and with the heat. And then we took the bottle home and opened it in England and we're like, oh, maybe not as nice without the surroundings.
The scenery.
However, okay, obviously then maybe they bought the typical table wines and not the best wines we have. And there was a reason
also. These wines, they were not necessarily stable for a long time. So you had someone here enjoying the wine, buying a couple of bottles, taking back to England, opening in Christmas.
Yeah.
By that time, probably the wine started re-fermenting maybe, or the cork was not placed right. So there was too much oxygen getting in, the wine was getting oxidized, plus a little bit being tired from
the traveling.
The busy week, being stressed, so the wine doesn't taste, it's
there's
all
a million
factors.
Things, absolutely. But however we want to phrase it, there's been a notable improvement, not just to the quality of wine, but the variety, the presentation, everything. I mean, it's gone up. I mean, I think about 20 years ago, probably as your own winery started, the transformation of Cyprus wines and how they've been seen worldwide has just been phenomenal to watch.
It's been, yes, it is phenomenal.
So tell us a bit about that. I mean, I know there were quite a few government incentives done. I'm not sure if that came from EU or not. I don't know if there's been any tax benefits, any educational
I'll tell you.
Aspects to it.
So back with the accession of Cyprus, that was back in 2004, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So
I remember it well at the time.
Already, because during the preparation of Cyprus getting into the EU, there had to be there was already too much wine being produced and too many grapes. Cyprus lost its main export countries for bulk wine, and because of the preparation for the accessions, we lost a key product, which was sherry. Cyprus was selling more sherry than the Spanish in the UK, for example, back then. But the name had to be lost because it was a protected denomination of origin of Spain, and Cyprus had to respect it. And also the sherry industry collapsed also because people shifted their preferences to wines that we still like today, which is more fresher wines with high acidity, with tropical fruits, citrus fruits. It's a different style of wine.
And I guess that's also just a reflection of the aging and changing populations.
Exactly.
I mean, sherry is something, I consider more for, grandparents.
Exactly.
My grandparents aren't around anymore, for example, and younger generations would go, even brandy is questionable, then it's whiskeys, and then it's more wines, and
Exactly. So, and then what happened with the accession of Cyprus, there was money given, the structural funds of the European Union, as they are called, which the government directed partly to the wine industry. And this is where there was a lot of subsidies being given for smaller production units, smaller wineries, boutique wineries to be established. So there was EU money given to uproot uproot vineyards, but at the same time, whatever remained, it was subsidies being given to more quality wines to be produced. So.
And then I remember it wasn't long after that we started winning international awards that we'd never dreamed of. And I can't remember which winery it was. It might have been yours, but it's first few that were.
It's always a collective.
It was like, wow.
It's always a collective.
It was amazing. And everybody was talking about it. And it was like, can you imagine, like, our wines are winning,
I mean, there is a constant and increasing number of bottled wine that is exported today from Cyprus to markets like the US, the UK, continental Europe. There is some wineries that they export to China even, and not cheap wines, more the expensive ones.
Well, I imagine it is more the expensive. And by the time the export-import taxes are put on and the transportation costs and everything, it might as well be the more expensive. So it's a smaller percentage then it has to be digested.
But it is the wine industry it did go through a renaissance. It's still a process, still a work in process. We're very thankful to the European Union for it. Otherwise, it would be a much slower process.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I always, anyway, whenever we're out, I'm always a strong supporter of Cyprus wines. So I'll always say, definitely when we have guests from abroad, but even when we're with friends who live here, I'm like, let's get from Cyprus. I think we should always support our own. And I think we've got amazing wines here. So,
and another sector in the wine industry that grew quite considerably is wine tourism.
That's another question I have here. So if somebody is interested in wine tourism, where do they start?
They can start by Googling which wineries should I visit in Cyprus, or best wineries of Cyprus. Hopefully Zambartas.
Hopefully it comes up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to do some backlink SEO snagging.
So, and the good thing is that they're quite close to the
main cities.
Yeah, to the main cities. It's just
they're accessible.
25 minutes drive.
Yeah, so people, you don't have to come and only see one. Somebody could come for a week and literally go to a different winery every day, choose the ones they want, and either drive up, rent a car, it's really easy, or get a taxi, and they're accessible.
It's advisable to book in advance, not because you're going to end up at the winery and they will not receive you, but booking in advance, you make sure that you'll be received better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's good to do that.
And many wineries have little restaurants, don't they? And
there are some wineries with restaurants, not the majority.
Yeah.
And but the majority of the wineries, they have very nice tavernas
close
nearby.
Yeah, so have a tour and then see the village. Yeah, definitely. I love that. Okay, because I have to bring up veganism and everything I do, but you mentioned it before the podcast started. That's why. Tell us a little bit about vegan wines.
Now, it's a well-kept secret in the wine industry that there are agents used, fining agents, as we call them, used during winemaking to make the wine softer. I'll give an example.
Isinglass,
Isinglass or casein. Basically, the idea, the chemistry behind it, without being too technical, is that tannin, which is what makes wine feeling drying in your mouth. It's tannin, and it chemically binds to proteins, and this is why red wine goes with red meat, for example, or cheese, because there's protein. So protein and tannin, they combine together and actually softens the tannin. So in case a wine is drying, has coarse tannin, as we say, winemakers could add protein in the wine to remove the tannin.
So they add casein, for example.
They add casein or egg albumin, so the egg white. That can be added in the wine before bottling, which then the tannin binds with the protein, and you can filter it out. So it doesn't. The protein doesn't stay in the wine. Now, these proteins, obviously, they are from animal origin. So there is a certification now for vegan wines that they don't use this kind of proteins. There are alternatives like pea protein or potato protein that you could use instead of the animal protein. Truth to be said, they are not as effective. But if someone is for the winery's conviction or having more environmental sensitivity, you use those, or you change a little bit your winemaking so you don't need the proteins anyway.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of the, let's say, more organic or newer wines, or I don't want to say natural because it is natural, they're not using that anyway. So some wines, for example, that are not certified vegan are vegan.
Yes, a lot of them actually.
But yeah,
a lot of
just
them.
People don't. I understand that, especially if the wineries are small, they can't afford the money to have it certificated or
yes, and also, I mean, everything is market driven. Also, Farah. So if consumers start demanding it much more intensely, let's say,
yeah,
the wineries will respond. It's very market driven
yeah,
as well.
yeah. It's interesting. I know I felt bad because someone recently gave me 2 bottles of red wine that I can't remember where it was from, but it had on it like some organic and, it's supposed to be like looking all natural. And they'd used casein in the back,
Yeah.
which, yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't even say. I just said thank you very much and, yeah, put it in the cupboard. But, okay, so what are your ambitions for the future? How do you see wine in Cyprus? What are your ambitions for Zambartas Winery?
Okay, the past 2 years were quite active to increase our exports.
Okay.
So I've been traveling quite a bit to trade shows and to conduct tastings abroad. That's the main effort now. And I do believe that Cypriot wine has a place in the world stage. The quality is there. We're just still an obscure country. And because of that, we actually, together with another 13 wineries, we created a common promotional company. Cyprus Wine Consortium is called. The brand is Winecore. And we are doing this together. We believe that by joining forces, obviously, it just makes it. One winery can never pull this by its own. It has to be a much more collective effort.
That's amazing.
So this is the aspiration right now for Zambartas Winery and for myself as well. And yeah, I do believe that also we need to somehow convince more Cypriots to be proud of the good Cypriot wine, because good Cypriot wine tends to be very good value for money as well.
I agree. And rather than everyone just being bedazzled by foreign wines and,
Yes.
what's abroad is always best, it's not. We have everything from good wines to good local produce to good designers to
Yes.
good, we have so much here that I think we really need to support local and help our economy grow.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I won't say final question from me. I have the 2 questions I always ask at the end, but let's just end with a bit of humor. How does somebody drink wine and not get a hangover or a headache?
Well, first of all,
this is for my husband.
First of all, what I tell people is that getting a headache from wine has nothing to do with the wine. It has to do with the person
Quantity.
you are sharing the wine with.
There you go.
I think that's paramount.
That's
the most important factor, in my opinion. Yeah, joking, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's good to drink less and better.
Yeah, better quality, less. And then I guess a bit of trial and error. Some people might even have an allergy to a certain grape or type of red wine or not allergy, but intolerance.
Now, as a rule of thumb, 1 glass of wine, 1 glass of water works.
Okay.
Yeah, that works, I think, with most people.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to allergens, getting a headache from wine has to do less with the sulfur dioxide or the sulfides. It has to do more with histamines. There are histamines in wine in different quantities, very low, but it is a factor. That's why some people blush sometimes when they have wine.
Well, I think especially Asian, don't they? Because they don't have the gene to.
Yes, there is some considerations there. Yes, but I really think that headaches and all this, they come when you have a stressful day or you're very tired. Those
hits you more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
yes.
agree.
That's a reality.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Tell us your favorite quote, or at least a quote or mantra that you like.
I have on my kitchen fridge.
Yeah. Everyone hangs their favorite.
Yeah. A magnet saying, "Be the reason someone smiles today."
Oh, that's so nice. Dimitra George, who's a famous soprano singer and was on the podcast, she's a Grammy nominee. Her quote was, "If you see someone without a smile, give them yours.
Yeah.
So it's similar. I love that. Be the reason someone smiles today. Yeah. Right. Bonus question. My crystal ball here with a question from one of our team. Sometimes they tell us who wrote it, and other times they're incognito. This one's from Elizabeth Sava, who's our social media executive. Share with us a random or weird dream you remember. Oh my goodness, that's quite funny.
That can go quite far.
That's actually, well done, Elizabeth. That's one of the most random questions that have been asked on this podcast so far. We're over 100 episodes. Share with us a random or weird dream that you remember.
I'm a bit blank.
I know, I would be as well.
I'm a bit blank. I usually sleep like a log.
Yeah, log. And then even if you remember dreams, you forget
disappear.
them. Yeah.
Sorry, Elizabeth. Shall we draw another question?
Let's draw another. I'll put that. Yeah, let's draw another.
And ask Elizabeth. Ask her the question.
Ask her the question and find out the answer. That's so funny. And we've pulled another. Are they all from Elizabeth? We pulled another one from her. She wrote two. If you were a nature element, which one would you be? And she gives an example here. Wind, air, water, fire, or earth. That's a good one.
I used to be fire, but now I think I would be wind.
Oh, so why?
Wind, I think there is a level of freedom.
Yeah.
You go wherever you want.
Wherever the wind takes you.
Yes. No, no limitations, no roots. I think that gives a degree of freedom that at this stage of my life, I would very like to have.
As we mature. What star sign are you?
I'm an Aries, but
that's like me.
Yeah.
So, that's fire, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they say after
the horoscope
40, then we become like the moon. Yeah,
sign. It has to do with the horoscope.
Yeah.
But also the wind can be refreshing, or it can be, strong. So I think there is.
Well, if you're wind and fire together, that's quite a combo.
Yeah.
So watch out, world. Zambartas is coming to take over the wine scenery. Marco, thank you so much. This has been such a lovely interview and conversation and chat. I've learned a lot. I think our listeners and viewers are going to love this. And guys, if you're coming to Cyprus anytime soon, definitely go up to see Zambartas Winery, and wherever you are, try the wine. And if you are living in Cyprus and are aware of it already, then do support local and order some. I love it. You are up there with one of my favorite wineries. I don't say that because you're here. Anyone can vouch for me. I'll always be ordering your wine. So thank you for being here. And I hope your time at St. Raphael at the wine tasting event that we've been doing.
It's all very well organized and everything is smooth.
Great. Thank you. Good to hear. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it helps us more than you may realize. If you are planning on coming to visit us at St. Raphael Resort and Marina, feel free to email our reservations team quoting Hotel Talk and receive an exclusive offer just for you. We look forward to seeing you soon, hearing your feedback about our show, and producing many, many more interesting episodes just for you, our listener, and our valued guest in mind. Thank you so much and take care.